they don't believe there's going to be any more indictments come down. Now, Mike Emery was he was picked up on something totally uh, not connected
Right.
to, but it, here's how it was connected, and that is that they were keeping an eye on him. You know, no doubt his phone was tapped. No doubt they've been, watching his private messaging, and so he got himself into trouble that way. And it's so easy to do. And from my understanding, Mike's situation was totally an innocent thing. He worked at a gun shop, and he had the keys to it. This was a friend of his. Listen, I have friends, who own businesses. If I needed something and I had the key, I wouldn't even think twice about going in and borrowing it. Or I believe his story is plausible when it comes to his situation. Um, you know, and here's another case of where the government can come in and twist things around, and really from a jail cell, you don't really have any means to defend yourself, or to rebut their argument, and you certainly don't have any control over what the media says, because the media takes all of their information, gets all their information from the government. So you know, that's the story they put out. So what's going on with Mike Emery really didn't have anything to do with Malheur on the surface, but underneath it all, it truly did.
It's all
He got busted because they're watching everybody and they're listening to everybody, and he just got caught up in circumstances, and it landed him in jail, and it's sad, really, because he really is a good guy.
right. Exactly. They're all good guys that are behind bars right now.
Yeah, yeah, they really are. Um, I can't tell you guys, if you're doing your letter writing campaign, we have a guy, his name is Ricky Loveline. It's Lovelien. He's in Pahrump, and he doesn't get very many letters, and he said that he would like to get some more letters from people, because when these guys get letters, it just brightens their spirits, especially if they're uplifting letters, and just hearing from the outside and knowing that people care about them is so important. It's vitally important. And these guys are really good at writing back. And what I would like to suggest, since somebody brought it up about letters being returned, there's several different reasons that they might return a letter. And one of them would be if you put a regular postage stamp on it, the kind that you lick. Make sure that when you get your envelopes, that you get them from the post office already pre-stamped, with their machine that stamps them, and it's not a paper stamp, or because they say that contraband.
Right.
Some inmates, I guess, at some time or the other long ago, decided it would be a good idea to put acid or some kind of drugs on these stamps so the guys could peel them off and lick them and get a buzz. So um, they don't allow regular stamps. So, and if you want the guys to write you back, um, since their funds are limited and commissary is limited, I might suggest that when you send them a letter, go ahead and put them an envelope in there that's already pre-stamped so that they can write you back.
There you go.
A couple of true fans have a couple questions here. All
Okay.
right. Number one, how's the ponytail progress going?
uh, I got to tell you guys, his ponytail is getting long. He's got a really good ponytail going, and he shows it off every time I go to see him. He'll turn his head around so I can see his ponytail progress. So that's a big deal for he and I, when we see one another, is the ponytail progress. So it's coming along great. His hair it's looking really good, and he's always saying, should I get my hair cut off for court? And I'm like, no, it looks nice. It looks really good. And so it's doing great. It's
Good.
doing
Those of us that have been really concerned about it, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable now. The other question is, when you were gone, of course, Bill Cooper and Ginger, dogs,
yes,
were being cared for, of course. So they must have been stoked to see, not only see you walk in recently, but
yeah,
I'm curious too because Pete used to talk to them all the time while you were on the air, or he would refer to them. So
right.
how are they noticing a void too?
They are. I told Pete the other day when I got back. I just got back from Nevada on Saturday. Again, I went to Nevada to spend a week, and I ended up spending a month because of circumstances. He had to get another attorney. He wasn't happy with his attorney that he got, and so he got another attorney, and that stopped his hearing from happening, and it was pushed out. So, another one of those things where a week turned into a month, and I have to say thank you to Jeremy for helping me out while I was in Nevada. But so I get home, and I was telling Pete, I said, I wish that everybody, human beings, were as happy to see me as my animals are, as my dogs. They jump up and down. They go absolutely spastic. You know, they just they bark and they wag their tails and they're jumping on me and they're just so happy to see me. But I have to tell you guys something about Pete. When he calls me, he will talk to Cooper and Miss Ginge, and he will say hello to them, and and Cooper licks the phone, and they wag their tail, and he gets Cooper to say I love you and talk to him, and he just gets such a big kick out of that, and he misses them terribly, and they miss him.
I bet. I bet. Wow. Any other questions for Deb while we have her here? Anybody in the chat room have any questions for Deb?
Hey, Deb, this is Deb the RN. I'd like to ask a couple of questions about what we can put in our envelope when we send a letter. Can we put news clippings? Can we put little cutout comics? Can
Mhm.
we, if you know, what can we put in an envelope?
Okay, that's a great question. In the envelope, yes, you can send news clippings. You can print off stories from the internet. They're also allowed to have photographs. Um, you can send photos. All of those things. They're allowed to have those things. One thing, they're allowed to have cards too, and these guys love to get cards. Pete loves to get cards that are personal, personalized with a little note in them. If you are going to send cards, just make sure that the cards don't have any kind of profanity in them, and make sure that they have no glitter. I sent Pete a little card once, and it had just the slightest bit of glitter on it, and shiny, and they wouldn't allow him to have it.
Again,
So yeah, they sent it back to me. But so make sure it doesn't have any glitter. Make sure there's no nakedness on it or no profanity, and they can get cards. They can get yeah, news articles, anything like that. The guys are allowed to have that, and they love it. They love it, especially because they don't have the internet. So getting a
Right,
newspaper story is a big deal to them, and
right.
especially if
So,
it's about them. They
right,
they like that. And don't forget, I mean, this isn't just about Pete, and it's not just about the Bundys. This is about other guys who were, um, who thought that they were doing the right thing, and there's a lot of other people in there, right along with these guys.
I think
So,
there's
yeah,
40 altogether, correct?
yeah. One of the great things about Pete being in Nevada was eventually they allowed Eric Parker, Jerry DeLemus,
Mm.
Dave Bundy, Mel Bundy, and when Ammon was there, they allowed Ammon, and let me think, a couple of others maybe, to be in the same cell block. They were Pete bunked with Eric Parker. They allowed them to go to the law library, which is a bank of computers in a room where they were allowed to do case searches. I mean, it was like connected to a pacer like a law library where they could together they could research their cases and like cases, and they were allowed to converse and eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner together, and just a lot of you know uh, just a lot of conversation. So it was really good for them, and it really lifted their spirits. They started a prayer group, and they would get up in the morning and they would have prayer together, and then they would go to breakfast, and at night they would have a Bible study together. And it wasn't about Mormonism either. it was it was just a spiritual uh, a spiritual thing that didn't have any kind of pizza, that it wasn't about any kind of personal religion. It was just about thoughts and just a scripture,
Okay, Deb,
uplifting study.
one additional question, hon. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's all
Is
right.
it possible to send things other than what fit in a business envelope?
You know what? I'm not sure about that.
Okay,
Um,
that's fine.
uh,
And
I can find out for you guys and post it.
well,
Uh,
it's one of those silly things, but can we send homemade cookies? Uh-huh. I
uh,
have my doubts because they might have poison or nail file in there. So
right.
my guess is the answer to that is absolutely not. But,
Absolutely not. You would be
yeah.
right about that.
But,
Um,
it makes me wonder what can we send them a paperback book?
Absolutely. And let me tell you guys, books are Pete's escape. And not only his, but all the other guys too. They're constantly, asking for books. And here's how you get books to them. They have to be new. You go to Amazon, because I get mine from Amazon, and I send
they have
them.
to be from the publisher, right?
They have to be from Amazon, or a place like Amazon where they're boxed there, and so I have sent Pete a, a ton of books, and yeah, you can
Any
send books that
certain
way. They have to be paperback. They cannot be hardcover. They have to be paperback, and you can only send four at a time.
okay.
Um, yeah, just
Who are some of his? I mean, what are
What kind of topics or
yeah,
authors?
I know somebody in the chat room said Eskimo Thompson or something like that. Does he have a preference as to what type of books he likes?
Pete is an avid reader. He likes all different kinds of books. I sent him Stephen King's book about JFK. I don't know if you guys have read that book, but it's a big book. It's thick, lots of pages, and it's just basically, it's about this guy who finds a time portal, and he goes back to 1959, and he gets this idea that he's going to stay there and stop JFK from being assassinated. And Pete found that very intriguing. But he likes all kinds of books,
And if
and
he doesn't, maybe one of the others do, so
that's
consequently they can
exactly right.
trade him around.
He does. When he's finished with them, he passes them on to
Okay.
another inmate. Now, there are a lot of groups out there who have, you guys can also put money on their, for their commissary, just add $10. We've had people add $5, $10 to the commissary, and
Can
that's
they
always good.
do that
Not
in a
just,
letter?
I'm
Can they
sorry.
send? Can they send I think it's money orders to the commissary through a letter? Can you do that?
You know what? I'm not sure about that. I've never done that. I know that online you can go through Securus. It's spelled Secrus, and you can put money on their books that way. But I don't know why you wouldn't be able to. That would be another thing that I would say. Call the sheriff, call the jail
Okay.
there at Multnomah County, and make sure that that's all right. And call Henderson Detention Center and Pahrump, and see what their policy is on that. I've just never done it that way, so I don't know.
Awesome. Okay. Great. Links wants to know about pictures, about photos. Can they send? I know a couple people in there wanted to send him some pictures of dogs and their
Yes,
dogs.
yes, they're allowed to.
Links don't send him any pictures shirtless, okay?
No, actually, I was thinking of sending him a picture of my son, the newest patriot we have.
Patriot of the group. Yes.
There you go. Absolutely, they're allowed to have photos, and that's a good thing because and they love to get them. So
Awesome.
they kind of collect photos, and of course they pass the photos around so everybody else can see what they got in the mail, and that's kind of a cool thing, right? So yeah, anything that allows them to think and where their minds can get off of where they're at is a good thing, and it's a good day. Mail call, I can tell you right now, is the highlight of their day. All of the guys, they look forward to it, you know. And again, I would ask everybody to remember Ricky Loveling, and make sure that
Ricky.
he
All right.
can see others. He's in
RICK.
Vermont.
Loveling. LOV.
Lovelien.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
and you guys can go to any of these sites, the Pahrump uh, Southern Nevada Detention Center, and the Henderson Detention Center, and you can go to Multnomah County and go to their website, and you can get a list of all of the inmates.
And I will put the link in the description box underneath this show once it's over with for you guys.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Lori, Lori, that's what I was just gonna ask. Can you put the links and maybe even the addresses so more people, like in the chat or whoever's gonna watch this later, can know where to send the letters and pictures and stuff?
Absolutely. What I'll do is I'll get that together and I'll put it out there with the links, and then I'll just put up everybody's information underneath the description. I will do that for everybody.
Awesome, thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Yeah.
Deb, I really, really want to thank you for coming on tonight and for talking to us.
Oh, you're
And
welcome.
please know that you are in our deepest thoughts and our prayers every day. And just to let Pete know also that we're trying our best out here to make sure that we make him proud. And it's it's hard, but we're going to do it. We are going to do it, and we're going to carry that torch until he cuts back, and we can give it to him ourselves, and he can take back over the reins.
Well, I want to let everybody know that Pete is so proud of you guys. He knows that there's good work being done. I'm always quick to tell him the good things when I hear them, and when people tell me about good things that are happening. There's a lot of people out there doing a tremendous amount of work on behalf of all of our prisoners, and they're letting them know that they're cared for and they're not forgotten. And Pete knows that. He really does. He knows it, and I would love to see. The divisiveness, come to an end. I know that it's human nature for people to get their, I don't even know, just get overly uh, excited, and you know, but I would just venture to say that now is not the time for it. It's just really not. It's stressful enough, and families are suffering. These men are suffering, and so um, let's take the lemons that we've been handed and make lemonade, you know, and, instead of being at one another.
Links Lanks put over in the chat here. He said, "We can't fill his shoes, but we can keep the mic warm till he gets back."
Yes, I love
Actually,
that.
I want you to warn Pete that very simply, when he gets out, not if, but when he gets out, and you guys come back to Burns area,
Uh-huh.
I am going to give him a hug.
Well,
An uncomfortably long hug, as Hullings.
Yes, yes, a very uncomfortably long hug.
well, I got to tell you, we're proud of the people in Burns. I'm so proud of them. They do have they, I mean, they are just doing phenomenal things in Burns. They got their petition to have Stephen Grasty recalled. That's just an amazing feat, and they're actually asking him to be responsible for the things that he's done. And I've had a lot of people contact me and say, a year ago they would never have dreamed that that could have happened in Burns. So there's progress being made there, and a lot of people have forgotten, and I don't want people to forget about the people in Burns and how much they've suffered under a tremendous amount of tyranny.
And they're
The
still
government,
suffering. He hasn't.
yeah, the government would like for people to forget about them. And if Pete only did that one thing, and that was to shed light on what was happening to those people who didn't have a voice and were too afraid to come out and say anything, and were being terrorized. Um, if 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 that's the only thing, if that's the only good that comes out of this, and that is that these people now have a voice, and and they are standing up for themselves, then it was worth it. It was worth all of it.
Wow.
Absolutely, Deb. And that's what we're here doing. We're not. That's like what Pat started. That's in here, and Links and Laurie and everybody else here. We're trying to come together, and we're doing it in a good way so that we're not fighting with each other, and we can try to move forward for Pete to pick up the torch and kind of carry it forward and not let this go away. And I'm not going to forget about it. And we got to keep this message strong. Same thing would happen with LaVoy. And so we're just trying to do that. And I commend you, and I have so much respect for you. You don't even know it. You and Pete both.
Wow. You know what? I really needed to hear that. I really did. Thank you so much.
You guys are awesome, and you inspired me and many others. And we're just going to keep trying and come together and not fight with each other and try to move forward because this is serious stuff. And I
It
love
really
you
is.
guys so much. And thank you.
You're so welcome. And it's going to be a long battle, and we're only just a few months into this, but they're going to start jury selection in September, and that's just a few short months away, and we are really under the gun. I've been really under so much pressure from the very start of this, and you know, I would love to be have Pete here with me and be doing our show every day, and I would love to be putting out videos and communicating with everybody. And I just have to have faith that the people who really know who Pete and I are will know that it's just not possible right now. It's just not possible for us to be able to do that. But it doesn't mean that we don't want to be doing it, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to do it again. So, right now we just have to concentrate on what needs to be done for this court battle that's coming up. And we need your support. And I'm not just talking about monetarily here, okay? God has seen fit to put on people's heart, donate if they can, and it's been enough, and it's been enough, and I'll just leave that in God's hands, and the people that are touched to do that. So far, I've um, I've every single time that I've needed something, um, I've gotten it, and so, I'm so thankful for that. But what this kind of support that I'm talking about is people who are going to stand by us and know that we're human and know that we're under a lot of pressure. We would never do anything on purpose to hurt anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. It's just the situation that we're in, and decisions have to be made. And sometimes these decisions have to be made um, right then and there. And so, you know, I I've been put in a situation where I've had to make decisions that I never dreamed in a million years that I would have to make, and I don't make them lightly. And I want you guys to know that I have been in contact with and supported Pete from the moment he was arrested. He called me the very next day, and I have not ceased
Mm-hmm.
talking to him. I don't do anything that he is not aware of and that he has not told me, you know, to do, given the circumstance of any situation that might come up. It's been tough. It's really been tough because he is in one place and I am in another. And we both, you know, jail has this way of of taking its toll on a person's ability to be connected to the world. It's part of what they do. They do everything that they humanly possible to disconnect these guys. And they've done that to Pete. He doesn't have a computer. He doesn't have the daily paper. He doesn't have a telephone. He has no way of communicating with the world. And so he disconnects. And that's part of the process, you know. And he has to think about himself because he's got one of the biggest challenges of his life coming up, two court hearings coming up that will determine whether he is going to be a free man or whether he is going to spend the rest of his life behind a steel door. And that's what Pete and I are faced with. And that's what we're concentrating on, you know. Um, he has been given permission to do some do some updates, and he's even allowed to give opinions, but he has to be very careful about that. And so we pre-record them, and sometimes we'll overdo them, do them over, just in case we feel like maybe something was said that he shouldn't have said. But for the most part, that's what we have decided that we're going to do and how we're going to move forward. We just we talk about it, and we say it's like he'll say, "How do you eat an elephant?" And I'll say, "One bite at a time." And that's how we've decided to go at this. Is when something comes up, then we deal with it, and there's been so many disappointments. I can't even begin to tell you guys how disappointing it is to sit there in front of a judge and hear that prosecutor say horrible things about Pete that are not even true, you know, and watch the judge um, lead the prosecution. And it's just amazing to me. And I can't tell you how disappointing it is at the end of it when the judge sits there and says, you know, we're not going to let you go. You're going to stay in jail. And we've had that happen. We've had that happen 4 or 5 times now. And every single time, you think I would get used to it, and you think that Pete would get used to it, but it's so disappointing, you know, it's so disappointing. And because we get our hopes built up and we work so hard and we gather um, all of our information and all of our clips and all of our paperwork, and we have this great fight, we're just like, okay, this time we're going to be ready for them. And we work relentlessly on it day in and day out, and just to have our hopes just just quashed, you know, just and from an uncaring government and an uncaring judge and an uncaring prosecutor. It's really devastating. So we just went through that again last week, and I'm trying to recover from that. So I'm sorry I'm a little teary here. It's terrifying. I shouldn't be doing this probably, but it is emotional, and it has an emotional impact on us. But
This
it
is your
not only us, but
this
it
is
has an emotional impact on the other men too, and the other people, because they're watching very closely, and they have all of their hopes invested on the other guy getting out, so that a trend starts. And that's how it happened in Oregon. One judge started letting people out on a pretrial release, and the other judges followed suit. And I mean, even John Ritzheimer was able to go home and be with his family now, and we're so happy about that.
nice.
But these guys who are indicted in Nevada, I mean, it is like a nightmare. They are not going to let those guys go, even though Oregon has allowed it. Pete, they gave Pete a pretrial release finally after fighting so hard. They finally let him go, and it was to a halfway house, but still, it was progress, and he would have been able to start doing the show again, and he would have been able to have some liberty. Um, but Nevada is they've dug their heels in. Joe O'Shaughnessy, he's back in jail without a release now, and he was out.
He was,
Um,
he was out with a monitor. I mean, it was a shock that he got picked up.
yeah,
And
well, he was indicted in Nevada, and that's why, you know. And Mike Arnold, Ammon's attorney, put out a post the other day, and it's so true. He said the same person in in Oregon is still the same person in Nevada, and he said that's the travesty of having these two trials happen at the same time, because one judge will let them go and another one won't, and it's so unfair. Their constitutional rights are being stepped all over here, and nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's objecting. It's not a conversation with our legislators, or our congressmen, or our senators, our top lawmakers, and nobody's talking about it. The only person who is coming to their defense right now is Michelle Fiore. And I spent a month with her, and I'm telling you, she works tirelessly every week. She goes to the um, the Henderson Detention Center, and she visits with these guys. And she goes to Pahrump and she visits with these guys, and she's running for Congress. And it has really impeded her ability to campaign, because she made a promise to these guys, and she is the only one who is keeping that promise. You know, well, I can't say that. There's a couple of other legislators, representatives, but I say it all the time. I remember when Bundy Ranch happened. The governor stepped in and condemned the BLM. Ted Cruz condemned the BLM, and President Obama. Everybody was condemning the BLM. And where are they now? Why aren't they stepping up and saying something? It's so frustrating, you know. No, nobody cares about these guys, because it's not sexy enough for them now all of a sudden. And I have gathered so many quotes from these people, um, from when Bundy Ranch happened, from the governor, from Dean Heller, the senator, and just all of these people, and they were all chiming in about government overreach and how the BLM was out of control. And you know what? None of them are stepping up to the plate now. None of them. And it's just a shame. It really is. And I hope people remember that when they go to the voting booths the next time.